Most men think they would notice the moment it's time to walk away. They expect something obvious, something loud. But the truth is quiet, subtle, and dangerous. The signs don't shout, they whisper. And that's exactly why so many men stay longer than they should. This isn't just another dating video. These are warning signs most men ignore until it's too late. Mind if she acts like this? You don't wait, you don't chase, you walk away now. Yes, walk away now, before you lose more than just time. If you're a man who wants clarity, control, and real understanding of female psychology, hit subscribe right now because this channel is built to give you the truth most won't tell you. And we're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, so be part of it. Topic 1. The subtle shift when her energy quietly changes. At the beginning, everything feels easy, almost effortless. She replies fast, laughs easily, shows interest naturally. But at some point, something changes and it's not obvious. It's subtle. He notices her energy isn't the same anymore, but he tries to rationalize it. She's probably busy. Maybe she's just tired. And just like that, without realizing it, he starts ignoring the most important signal. When behavior changes, something underneath has already changed too. And that's where the danger is, because emotional silence often speaks louder than words. A man who pays attention understands that interest doesn't just disappear, it fades before it's gone. For example, she still replies, but slower. She still talks, but feels less engaged. She used to start conversations. Now she just responds. It seems small, almost irrelevant, but it's not. It's like a light bulb flickering before it burns out. The issue is already there, it just hasn't gone dark enough to scare you yet. Most men ignore this phase because it's not that bad yet. And that's exactly why they get stuck later. An experienced man would tell you this. Don't just watch what she does. Watch how she does it. The tone, the energy, the level of presence. Because when someone truly wants you, you feel consistency. You don't have to decode signals. A simple exercise here. Compare the beginning to now. Is she investing the same way? Showing the same level of interest? If the answer is no, don't fool yourself trying to justify it. As many times, that small shift is just the start of a pattern that becomes much harder to ignore. And shows up in even more confusing ways later on. Topic 2. Inconsistent attention. Hot and cold behavior at first. He thinks it's just coincidence. One day she's amazing, attentive, engaged, almost like the beginning. The next, distant, cold, hard to reach. This hot and cold pattern isn't just confusing, it's addictive. Because when she shows interest again, it feels like he's winning her back. And without realizing it, he starts valuing emotional crumbs like there's something rare. The problem? That's not a healthy connection. It's instability disguised as intensity. Men who don't understand this get even more hooked. Because the brain starts associating that inconsistent validation with reward, almost like an emotional slot machine. Sometimes you get attention, sometimes you don't. And that keeps him stuck trying to figure out the right move. For example, he starts thinking, what did I do differently that day? She was more into me. Then he changes his behavior, tries to please more, walks on eggshells. But the more he tries to control it, the more he loses control of himself. A more experienced perspective sees this clearly. Consistency creates security. Inconsistency creates anxiety. And where there's constant anxiety, there's rarely stable, genuine interest. A practical test is to look at patterns over time, not isolated moments. If she's constantly switching without a clear reason, that's not mystery. That's emotional misalignment. And while he's trying to figure her out, another silent pattern starts to show up. One where the effort stops being mutual. Topic 3. She stops investing effort. At the beginning, her interest was obvious without effort. She would start conversations, suggest plans, show genuine curiosity about his life. But over time, that starts to fade. It's not dramatically, but gradually. Suddenly he realizes he's always the one initiating, always the one keeping things going, always the one trying to maintain the connection, and the most dangerous part. It happens so slowly that he adapts without even realizing the dynamic has completely changed. A man who pays attention knows a relationship can't survive on one-sided effort. When a woman is truly interested, she participates emotionally, mentally, even logistically. She makes space, invests time, shows up. When that disappears, It's not about being busy. It's about not being a priority. It's a simple example. If she used to make time to see him, and now always isn't sure when she's free, that's not a packed schedule. That's reduced interest. And instead of pulling back, most men do the opposite. They invest even more, trying to compensate for what she stopped giving. And that's where one of the biggest mistakes happens. He believes that if he tries hard enough, he can bring things back to how they were. But the truth is, effort doesn't create desire. It only exposes when there's no reciprocity. A practical exercise here is to look at the balance. Who's putting in more energy? Is it equal or clearly one-sided? It's because when effort stops being mutual, something essential is already gone. And that opens the door to an even more subtle shift, where it's not just effort that disappears, but emotional depth too. Topic 4. You feel like you're chasing her approval at some point, without knowing exactly when. The dynamic shifts. Before, he felt secure, natural, comfortable being himself. Now he starts overthinking what he says, measuring his actions, looking for signs of approval. It's like he's trying to get it right just to keep her interested. And that's exhausting, but also addictive. Because he believes that if he does everything right, he can get back the version of her from the beginning. This is one of the most dangerous signs because it hits your self-esteem directly. When a man starts chasing validation, he stops being the prize and starts acting like someone seeking approval. For example, he changes the way he dresses because he thinks she prefers something else. Avoids saying what he really thinks to prevent conflict, or even stops doing things he enjoys just to please her. Slowly, he reshapes himself. And ironically, the more he adapts, the less authentic and less attractive he becomes. A more strategic perspective understands this. Attraction doesn't come from approval. It comes from authenticity and balance. When you feel like you have to earn validation, something is already off. Simple test. Do you feel more like yourself around her, or more careful? If it's the second, that says a lot. Because when the dynamic becomes a constant search for approval, the connection stops being light and becomes a silent pressure. And that's exactly where another shift starts. One where emotional depth begins to disappear completely. Topic 5. She avoids emotional depth. At the beginning, conversations flowed naturally. There was curiosity, exchange, even moments of vulnerability that built real connection. But over time, something changes. Whenever things start to get deeper, she pulls away, makes a joke, changes the subject, gives surface-level responses. And he feels it. It's not a lack of topics, it's a lack of openness. But many times, he ignores it because things still work on a superficial level. A more aware man understands that real connection requires emotional depth. It's not about having heavy conversations all the time, but about being willing to go beyond the surface. When she avoids that level, it can signal emotional disinterest or lack of intention to build something real. For example, if he tries to talk about the future, feelings, or something personal, she always keeps it shallow. That's not random. It's an invisible boundary, and those don't appear without a reason. Here's the interesting part. Many connections last for months at this surface level, creating the illusion of closeness. They talk, hang out, laugh together. But something essential is missing. A simple exercise. Are your conversations evolving or stuck on the same level? Is there real exchange or just interaction? Because when depth disappears, the connection weakens quietly, and along with it, another sign starts to show. One many men ignore until it's too late. Respect begins to slip in small ways. Topic 6. Respect starts to fade. Subtle disrespect. At the beginning, respect is natural. She listens, values him, shows consideration in small ways. But over time, small details start to change. And they're so subtle that most men overlook them. A sarcastic comment here, a dismissive response there, small signs of indifference that weren't there before. And he thinks, it's not a big deal. But in reality, respect rarely disappears all at once. It erodes, little by little. An experienced man knows disrespect doesn't start big. It starts with what you tolerate. For example, she cancels plans last minute without caring, makes jokes that put him down in front of others, or simply ignores things that matter to him. And the more he accepts it without speaking up, the more it becomes normal. It's like he's teaching her how to treat him, and the standard keeps dropping. And here's what most men don't realize. When respect drops, attraction usually already has. Because respect and attraction go hand in hand. A simple test. How does she treat you compared to others? Is there a difference? Is there care or carelessness? Because when respect starts to fade, the relationship enters dangerous territory. And that's when one of the most confusing signs shows up, when you no longer know exactly where you stand.
Topic 7. She keeps you uncertain about where you stand.
Sometimes everything feels aligned, other times completely unclear. She never clearly says what she wants, never defines what you are, and always keeps things open-ended. And that creates a strange effect. He starts living in expectation. Always trying to read signals, trying to figure out if he's moving forward or just being kept around. And the most dangerous part, but ambiguity gives him just enough hope to stay, but never enough clarity to feel secure. A more self-aware man understands that constant confusion isn't normal, it's a signal. When someone truly wants you, there's direction, intention, clarity in actions. It doesn't have to be labeled immediately, but it's not this endless push and pull either. For example, she talks about going out but never confirms. Shows interest one day, avoids any definition the next. That's not mystery, that's lack of commitment. People who don't commit usually aren't serious. And here's what traps many men: the hope that with time she'll figure it out. But while he waits, keeps investing time, energy, and emotion into something unstable. A simple question: do you actually know where you stand with her? Or are you always trying to figure it out? Because when a relationship lives in uncertainty, something fundamental is missing. And that starts creating an even deeper effect. One where, without noticing, he begins to lose himself. Topic 8. You start losing yourself trying to keep her? At the beginning, he was light, spontaneous, authentic. He had routines, hobbies, friends, clear priorities. But slowly, that starts to change. He begins reorganizing his life around her, cancels plans, stops doing things he enjoys, adjusts everything just to be available. And the most interesting part? He doesn't see it as loss. He sees it as effort, as dedication. But in reality, he's giving up who he is to keep someone who's no longer giving the same energy back. A more aware man understands that attraction doesn't grow through excessive sacrifice. It fades. Because when you abandon your identity, you stop being interesting, even to yourself. A simple example: he stops going to the gym, stops hanging out with friends, starts replying instantly to every message like he's always on standby. It might look like care, but often it signals neediness. And constant neediness rarely sustains respect or desire. Here's a powerful exercise. Look at your life before and after her. What did you stop doing? What changed? Are those changes a choice? Or fear of losing her? Because when a man starts losing himself to keep someone, he enters a cycle where the more he gives, the less he receives. And at that point, something deeper starts happening. A quiet internal feeling that something isn't right. Topic 9. Your intuition keeps warning you, but you ignore it. Deep down, he already knows. It's not logical, not easy to explain, but it's there. A constant feeling that something is off, something doesn't fit. But instead of listening, he suppresses it, makes excuses, creates explanations, holds on to the good moments as proof that it's probably nothing, and slowly he starts doubting less the situation and more himself, like his own intuition is the problem. An experienced man understands that intuition doesn't come from nowhere. It's built from patterns. Your brain picks up before your mind can fully process them. Small behaviors, shifts in energy, inconsistencies. It all adds up. For example, he feels something is off when she takes days to reply, avoids certain topics, or changes her behavior without explanation. But instead of trusting that signal, he thinks, maybe I'm overthinking. And that's exactly when he disconnects from himself. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Ignoring your intuition has a cost. And most of the time, that cost is emotional. Simple exercise. If a friend was in your exact situation, what would you tell him to do? Because from the outside, things are clearer. And often the advice you'd give someone else is exactly what you're avoiding yourself. And when that moment hits, the decision is no longer about understanding her behavior. It's about how much you're willing to respect yourself. Conclusion. Now the question isn't about her anymore. It's about you. How many of these signs have you ignored? How many times did you feel something was off, but chose to stay anyway? The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Nothing changes while you keep accepting less than you deserve. So let me ask you, are you going to keep adjusting to something that drains you? Or finally respect yourself enough to walk away? Because in the end, it's not about losing someone, it's about not losing yourself. If this video opened your eyes in any way, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications here. You'll learn how to position yourself, value yourself, and never fall into these patterns again.